this might blow some gaskets. Some of the marketers are going to disagree with me violently, but you asked the question, so I'm just going to shoot it from the hip, Jason. So I believe marketing is...
So Daniel, welcome to the show. It's a real pleasure to have you.
Jason, it's a glorious morning here in Chicagoland area. Nice. Thanks for having me. Great work with what you're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for joining. I love getting the show started off by having our guests tell us a little bit about them growing up and sort of paint the picture for us of how you got to where you are today.
Well, I wish I could tell you it was all lollipops and unicorns, but that's usually not what happens, right, Jason? Where I am today was a culmination of a ton of failure, borderline quitting. And I'm so happy the mentors I had back in the day on shows like this have really just helped me to stay in the boat and persevere and get it done. I'm a chiropractor by trade. I graduated in 2001. And when I got out, I had the quintessential, it's going to be rainbows and unicorns. I got to put my shingle out and everyone will come flocking to me. They'll know exactly what I do and how I do it. And they will just pay, stay, refer, and I'll have a booming practice in 6 months. I mean, that's what the lie we were told in school. Come to find out a year into my private practice, and I was an independent contractor within a practice. It wasn't like I had, a ton of overhead either. I came very close to quitting the profession altogether because the amount of rejections that I was receiving from people of the general public was just so overwhelming. And I can't understate that enough. And I think in my industry, I'm the one that talks about it with as much candor as possible. It absolutely sucks, Jason. I think you kind of understand that. A man or a woman can only take so much rejection in the time span of literally in 9 months. And I remember that day clearly because I went online and I started looking at other professions. What am I going to do here? I have $120,000 in debt. I've dedicated to my life to help serving people and help people. I know I can. But for some reason, I'm looking elsewhere because I want out, because I could not take another no. And I blamed everyone. I blamed my community. They're stupid. They're dumb. They don't get it. They're not committed to their health. I blame my school. They're dumb. They're stupid. They didn't teach me what I needed to learn in school in terms of business. I blame my parents. I blame my dog. I blamed everything under the sun I could possibly blame. And I was 20 something, didn't know really much about anything. So I'm going to classify it as a state of depression because, this was my life and I was about to fold up and leave until I realized outside the profession, I realized the biggest problem I had wasn't the fact that I wasn't good at what I did. Biggest problem I had wasn't because of the service that I provided was less, because there were doctors all across the world that were crushing it. So that's not it. And I realized through a little trial and error that I had what we would call today as a sales problem. I did not know how to present what I do in an effective, efficient way that's consumable to the clueless member of the public across from me. And that was tough to swallow too, because Jason, when you talk about the 4-letter word, sales, 5-letter word, sorry, it kind of brings up this antiquated notion of being sleazy and browbeating and making people do things they don't want to do. And I was like, I don't have a sales problem. So I struggled with that for another year while I was living on cookie crumbs and I have a baby on the way with a 2-hour commute one way. I was like, I can't have a sales problem. There's no way. Sales is like what doctors don't do sales. That's really bad. And so after I struggled with that, and then I came to the conclusion that, yes, Dan, you have a strict sales problem. That started my journey on understanding how other industries sell their services and products. And that's when the light bulb went off, Jason. I said, you know what? I certainly do have a sales problem because I'm doing all the things wrong. I'm doing everything wrong. No wonder people are not saying yes to this when they should be saying yes to this. No wonder I'm literally living out of my parents' basement with my wife and newborn baby. Why I can't just pay, reasonable bills, because I certainly have a sales problem. So that's my journey in a nutshell, Jason. I hope I didn't take up too much time.
No, that's perfect. That's great. And I think a lot of healthcare professionals who have their own practices, especially the ones that are non-insurance based, because, you're not just getting, a pipeline of patients sent to you just because you accept a certain insurance. A lot of people struggle with this thing, this concept of sales. They think it's so, like you mentioned, so slimy, so sleazy. I'm a healthcare professional. I can't be selling anybody. But there's a right way and a wrong way to go about it, right? Like we're not talking about sales as delivered by a used car salesperson with a greasy slick back hair who's trying to sell you a hunk of junk and lying about the product that they're selling. This is like a totally different ball game, right? So how did you, the first step, I feel like towards recovery, is realizing that you have a problem, right? So a lot of people are very egotistical, unfortunately, and sometimes they're stubborn, and sometimes it takes them a long time to be like, okay, maybe the problem is with me. Maybe the problem is with how I'm functioning, how I'm running my practice, and how I'm selling. So how did you come to that realization, and what sort of woke you up? Because I feel like that is such a huge problem. And that's obviously the first step that you got to overcome.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the answer to that question is I hit rock bottom. And I come on these types of podcasts and shows because I don't want my fellow compadres in healthcare, they're so altruistic, right? That I don't want you to hit rock bottom. And that's really important to me. So when you're at rock bottom and you realize I got nothing left, and you're desperate and you're scratching and clawing for straws, you just come to accept anything. And fortunately for me, that sales was there, and it was the only thing in front of me. And it's the only thing I studied. And I started that journey early on the basics of sales. Hopefully we can cover a couple of those concepts that I learned back then. But that's how it happened. There was nowhere else for me to go. And unfortunately, that shouldn't be the case. It should be the first place we go, especially if you want to build a banging practice right off the gate, non-insurance dependent. That's really important too, because I think insurance dependency has made us very lazy in the sales perspective because there's no selling. There's just, I'll take what insurance gives, and we live off the insurance, payments, and you just get really lazy on the customer service or the fulfillment side. And the marketing and the sales side of our businesses. And when that goes away, and it is every single day, the insurance stinks more and more. There's going to come a D-Day for all healthcare practitioners where we actually have to eloquently and efficiently explain what we do in a way that's consumable to our marketplace. Yeah,
very well said. And I couldn't agree more with the insurance part of it, especially even on the customer service side, like you mentioned. I go to a primary care doctor. I was going to a primary care doctor here in Orlando, and this happens like all over the place. My sister was just really sick, and we went with her to a lot of doctor's appointments, and the service is absolutely horrendous. And honestly, a lot of times the care is too, because it's the fee for service model, and the only way the payments keep going down oftentimes, and it's certainly not keeping up with inflation. And the only way to make the same as a provider is to see more patients faster.
Right.
And it's a brutal situation, which is why we teach one of the things we teach is cash-based businesses, because you can sort of free yourself from that insurance model.
Well, you know what's interesting is you just said you went to medical doctors. From a business standpoint, when I go into those like dentists, because I'm a consumer of healthcare as well. Mm-hmm. I walk into those offices, and is it just me, Jason? But do you also go in there being like, how in the world do these people stay in business? Like, exactly. That does not compute. I don't get it. If any other business out there operated like that, they would be gone. There's no way. Like a Starbucks, if they operated that way, like they're done.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
I couldn't agree more. Yep. There's so many problems with the healthcare system and the insurance component of it for sure. So sales, gosh, for a cash-based business, this is, the lifeblood, but prior to sales comes some marketing, right? And I feel like that's another huge struggle. Sales is the next step in the pipeline. When it comes to marketing, it sounds like you sort of figured out a good way to explain marketing messages too, just based on what I've seen from some of your stuff online. What kind of advice do you have when it comes to marketing? Because you got to attract the customers to come into your clinic in order to sell them a product or service. So let's talk about that just briefly.
Sure. Be happy to. And this might blow some gaskets. Some of the marketers are going to disagree with me violently, but you asked the question, so I'm just going to shoot it from the hip, Jason. So I believe marketing is a myth. I believe marketing was a term that we gave sales because sales was too uncomfortable. Because marketing is not a top of mind public relations gig. Public relations is a public relations gig. Marketing has a distinct purpose of a return on whatever you put out there. So if you're a healthcare provider out there, I don't care what industry, you put a marketing piece out there, I don't care, let's call it a flyer, whatever, Facebook post, an IG reel, or whatever you guys do. We don't do that just for the grace of time spent editing an IG reel. Oh my goodness, right? We're doing it because we want a specific return on that. We want to attract, and we want that particular prospect, lead, new patient, client, whatever. We want them to come to a call to action based off of that piece and then make it into your office. So let's not lie to ourselves here. We don't put marketing pieces out there for just the sake of putting stuff out there. We don't do that. We specifically do it because we want to return. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people say, oh, it's selfish. Well, whatever. That's why you market. Why do you pay Facebook and IG and TikTok $15,000 a month in ad spend? Why do we do that? Because we want a return on it. But when we think about marketing, what happens is we have an out. If marketing doesn't work, what we usually say to ourselves as our self-defense mechanism is, oh, it didn't work. So, well, I guess we should just, I don't know, man, I'm glad I just put myself out there. Yeah, so, well, it didn't work. Okay, well, at least people saw it and I got good engagement and, it's going to be okay. Like we lie to ourselves in these constantly, and that's just wrong. Why?
Yeah.
If we called it sales, Jason, that changes the game, right? See, what I believe is marketing is a subset of sales. It's not its own entity. It's the beginning phases of the sales cycle very early on. And if you look at marketing from a sales perspective, it changes what your marketing does. Okay. It's very specific. It's problem oriented. It positions you as a solution to that particular problem. And if you can encapsulate that in your marketing pieces, as opposed to, and let's be fair, Jason, I know I love my brothers and sisters in chiropractic, but some of their marketing is horrible because it's like hi, my name is Dr. Dan. I can help you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, come on, guys, like that's their marketing, but that's not working because it's not from the perspective of a salesperson. A salesperson looks at things very differently. They look at it, okay, who am I talking to? I know there's someone out there. They have a particular specific problem I can help them with. How can I talk about that? Are they going to listen to me? Because I'm obviously relating. Oh, and by the way, here's a call to action, but I can't take everyone. So you got to act within the first week because I'm opening my schedule to do that. And there's a disqualifier and there's a qualifier. See, this is what all salespeople learn, acts of urgency, scarcity, all those things. But a marketer won't really do that as well. So that's my take on marketing. Hope I didn't offend anyone out there.
I think it's great. I think it's spot on, actually. And some of the key takeaways there for those listening is that you have to address a problem in your marketing. And then you have to have, that urgency, scarcity is always great, but you have to have that call to action at the end. You have to have that call to action to whatever it is, book an appointment, download a form so you can get their contact information and continue to nurture them. Those are definitely key steps in the sales process for sure. People call that top of the funnel sort of marketing, or you like to call it top of the funnel sales. Sounds like maybe.
Yes.
Yep. So I love it. Good stuff. And I couldn't relate more to the fact that some people are just like, yeah, well, this is branding. I've gotten impressions, but the goal of marketing is to, like you said, get a return on your investment. And in the world of, digital marketing, it's very easy to see if you're getting a return on your investment because everything's trackable. You can track the patient all the way back to your clinic. And from your clinic, you can track if they've, bought a package or purchased a service. And so impressions are vanity metrics and something that you shouldn't even be considering whatsoever. Even click-through rates are not even that great of a metric. You want appointments. If somebody just clicks your page and then doesn't book an appointment or do whatever the call to action is, it doesn't matter. The click doesn't even matter. You want the call to action, the actual event, that event that you're trying to capture. That's the metric that you're after, not these vanity metrics like impressions or likes or even shares or all that garbage. It's
Jason, mic drop, buddy. That's absolutely true. And I'm going to add on to that. The only people that are interested in impressions and those particular vanity metrics are the people who make money on those platforms. We don't make money as a YouTube creator, and you can do really well, but that's not our thing.
Yeah.
You're not looking for sponsorships that you're going to sell, a skincare line to push your product. That's not what we do. Now, if you do that, I think those metrics are very important. But for us, we're looking for a call to action. So again, like Jason just said, it's so critical. Like those metrics don't mean anything to us.
Awesome. What are some of the things that you see practitioners doing in their practice? They've got a patient, they've addressed their problem. They've got, a product or service that can help with that problem. How does the sales process look like? Ideal sales process? Because a lot of people, I feel like, will just sort of, okay, here's what we have. Okay, let me know if you want to, if you're interested, call me later, email me if you want to sign up. Let's go into that part. Like, what's the proper way to do this?
Well, I mean, it's a loaded question because obviously it has a ton of depth, but
Yes.
but it's incredibly simple. What I learned early on, the first thing I learned is this concept called, and we coined it here because we don't care. It's called STFU. I think everyone should know what that stands for. And that stands for, don't worry, I won't say it, Jason. I don't want you to have to edit all this out, but it's shut the F up, right? Be quiet. Stop talking. No one cares about you. No one cares about your facility as long as it's reasonable. No one cares about your paint color. No one cares about whether or not you're wearing the latest Gucci shoes. No one cares. No one cares where you went to school, actually. No one cares about your resume. No one cares that you're board certified at that point when they're in the office with you. No one cares about that. They have one very selfish need, want, and desire, and that is, I have a problem, and I got to know in the shortest amount of time, is this doctor, practitioner, whomever, is this person a solution to my problem? The best way to establish that in the shortest amount of time possible is A, STFU about yourself, and B, ask questions in a curious and intriguing way where you're actually trying to get down to the bottom of the problem.